Hi, I am Elizabeth Aguilar. I have been working with your daughter Riley. She is a pleasure to be around. I can see how much she values her family. She always has such a positive attitude and is very eager to learn. On the first day I met with Riley, I asked her, "What do you think a good reader is?" Her response was to be able to read every word without trying to sound out the words. Then I asked her about her reading goal. She responded to be a good reader. And according to the assessments these past few weeks, she will definitely reach her goal to be a good reader. I wanted to share with you our experiences from these last few weeks. I performed a few different assessments, and they focused on sight word ability, comprehension skills, and listening comprehension skills. This is all the things that I noted from my case study portfolio. Riley is a 9-year-old girl in the fourth grade. During our first visit, I asked her a few questions about her reading habits. According to the Reading Interest Survey, my case study student likes to read books that are full of adventure, mystery, fantasy, and humor. She prefers to read fiction books, and enjoys reading about characters around her age, fantasy, actors, and animals. Her typical time spent reading in a day is about 20 minutes, but she only likes to read sometimes. For the most part, she typically gets her reading material from the school library. She does not enjoy reading about sports, though. Fantasy books are her most favorite type of books. One thing I noticed about my case study student's behavior is that it's difficult for her to sit still. She tries to avoid as much eye contact as possible and would much rather talk about anything other than reading. She is very outgoing and loves her walks with her parents and her dog Max. But one thing is for sure, she was always uh, willing and ready to start the week's lesson um, each time that we had our encounters. Now, if she didn't understand a statement, she was always really quick to notify me, and she would ask for clarification. During our second visit, I focused on performing a sight word assessment. This assessment is a 220 Dolch basic sight words list, which consisted of sight words, and she was to say as many words as she could without hesitation or mispronunciations. And according to this assessment, out of 220 words, she only missed 3 sight words, which placed her at a third grade reading level. In our third meeting, I performed a running record assessment tool to view her level of comprehension. This assessment allowed me to identify any errors or self corrections during an oral reading performance. There were 169 running words. The taken from the book selection was pages 10 through 12 of Be Prepared. Now, during this part of this assessment, I followed along and made notes of any errors or self corrections. On the first page, I noted 3 self corrections and errors. The first self correction was that she had left out a word in a sentence, but she quickly realized it and reread the sentence over without omitting the word. The next 2 were the same as the first self correction, but this time she forgot 2 words, which right away she knew that it didn't make sense, so she reread the sentence. And so this also was a self correction. On the second page of the text, she left out a past tense of a word, and this counted as an error. On the third page, she decoded the word bandage. Then she reread the word, making this a self correction. And according to the accuracy rate of mistakes, she scored a 99%. and a 1-to-1 ratio of self-corrections. I was also able to rate her fluency, her reading fluency, which was at a 2. Lastly, I assessed her level of comprehension through verbal expression. It focused on 3 key understandings that were within the text, beyond the text, and about the text, bringing her overall comprehension score to a 5 out of 10. During our third meeting, I performed a closure test assessment, which consisted of a portion of the story missing text throughout the selected passages. I provided her with a word bank, and this is another way to assess her comprehension of the story. She did very well with this assessment, scoring 100%. As she worked through this portion of the test, she would read the phrases aloud and quickly find the missing word. On the fourth and final meeting, I performed a listening comprehension assessment. I read a slightly higher reading level book. After reading the book, I asked her a few prompts to measure the level of her comprehension. She was very short with her responses, so she did not really get into much detail. Instead, she would repeat the answers for her responses. She ended up scoring 3 out of 9. Her reflections did not include important information about the story. Now, after each assessment, I constructed a lesson activity that would help my case study student improve her areas of weakness. The first activity consisted of tutor modeling. In this part of the activity, I went over every page of Be Prepared and talked about its illustrations. I asked her questions like, why do you think there's a picture of binoculars there? I wanted to point out that the author wants to help the reader with some of the story's vocabulary words. So the author uses these pictures to help the readers, and these are clues for her to use whenever as she reads her stories. The next activity focused on word work. I wanted the student to do an undercover meaning activity. She chose 4 vocabulary words from the story that she either does not know or struggled to decode. She then would write the target words on the front of the vocabulary flipbook. She would then complete the information inside the flaps. She would put things like the definition, examples of the words, and she would use the word in a sentence and things of that nature. Lastly, a selection of this activity consisted of me reading a chapter of a book, then having the student draw several things that she could recall from the chapter. For example, a skirt or a big smile or a boy or etc. This will allow me to check her comprehension of the story. Overall, the lesson plan activities focused on 5 things: word building skills, tutor read aloud, tutor modeling, supported reading, and comprehension check, and word work. These are some recommendations that I have to help aid my case study student. After reading a chapter, have her write about what she has read. This could involve a sequence of event charts or a journal entry. Ask the student questions. This will help her critical thinking skills. Have the student draw pictures of things that stuck out to her the most throughout the reading passages. Now, this will help her recall the story's main events. And then lastly, have the student write down the words that were either hard to decode or that she did not know the meaning of, so that she could then later look them up and create sentences using the words. Finally, my role as a Christian is to show the love of Christ to my students, While helping my students gain and better understand literacy skills, I can show them who Christ is by showing them compassion through the process. I personally experienced literacy skills. I was so blessed to have teachers, though, that would not help me, that would not allow me to fail. They did everything that they could to help me succeed. And so that's exactly what I want to do. I want to give them compassion. And as I give them my compassion, I offer them my trust. I want to do this to help them gain the skills that they need for literacy. And this, of course, will help them succeed just the way I did. So I want to end this with a Bible verse from 1 Peter 4:10. As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. Thank you.